Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to GarageBand Weekly for the last time in 2022. What a year it's been, and this will be our year in review. And to kick things off, I've actually got a question for you, and that is this, not that, but that's what you can do. But the question I have for you has been lost, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I had a little thing right there that was going to do this, and it was going to be all slick and professional, but what is your best moment, your best musical moment of 2022? If you're here live, let us know right here in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, you can leave that down in the comments section. But I'd love to get a list together of the highlights of 2022. What was your best musical moment? Did you create your first song in GarageBand? Did you release your first song to Spotify with DistroKid? Did you just get a home studio set up? Did you buy yourself a cool piece of gear? Let us know here in the chat as we go through. And the other thing is, if you do have a question, go ahead and put a big Q in front of your comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have throughout the show. We are going to be talking. There it is. I knew I had it here somewhere. There's the question. What is your most memorable music moment? Your Triple M. Your memorable music moment of 2022. Because it's been a big year. It's been a long year. We're going to go through it as it relates to GarageBand in this very show. So settle on in. Let's go and say good day to some of the folks who have joined us live. And that would include the following: Mr. Mark Bro, Mr. Alex Bacchus, hello to you. Our one and only moderator, Mr. Thomas Christ. G'day, Joe and Barry Glenn. Hello to the Mix Club. Rhett, I hope you are doing well, my friend. Thank you for being here, Mr. Gregory O'Sullivan. Audible Video, Pete John's Contemplative Soul, at least according to the YouTube poster. Oh, okay. I'm a contemplative. I do like to contemplate my navel. Yes, it's been warm here, by the way. It's really hot. If the air conditioner has to come on today, I apologise. There you go. So highlights. Start talking highlights. We'll throw them up as we go through here. I released an EP, says Jade Star, 3 singles, and my channel continues to grow. Very, very cool stuff. And Audible Video. Highlight was making funky bass lines. Yeah, cool. Do you want to know my highlight? It was that I got some music out there. So if I wanted to be negative, you might recall this, that I was sitting here around about 12 months ago and I said the following statement. In 2022, I'm going to create, record, and release 12 songs. Yes, 1 per month. And do you know what the total tally was at the end of 2022? It was 2.5. So is 2.5 12? No. And what's the half, by the way? That was the song I did with Bear, which was where I only did the lyrics and sang on the song. So did I get my 12? No. But you know what? You know what I say? When you set yourself 12 and you get 2.5, isn't that bad? What if I set myself 3 and I got 0? Or what if I set myself 1 and got 1? Like setting goals that are stretch goals, stretch targets that you're trying to get towards. It just means that if you don't get there, it's not a failure. You know, what do we say around here? Micro failures, macro success. So I still have 2 songs that I put out this year that I'm pretty darn proud of. I released Toxic Ego all the way back in January, and I released my Songtember song called Grown in, of course, September, or the very start of October. So yeah, I'm gonna call that a win and a success. And I think Songtember, it's a bit of an easy one for me, because if you're new to the channel and you're new to the community, Songtember is our Song in a Month challenge. We do it every September. And what we do there is I challenge you. I create, record, and release an entire song in the month of September, and I challenge you to do that as well. And we had some truly amazing songs. You heard one of them. You heard Jade's Metheus song on the show, on the Your Music Live show yesterday. And my song Grown is one of the songs I'm probably most proud of. Low point of the year, wearing face paint for a music video. Well, we could talk low. I was going to go positive, but we could talk low points. Don't know what that says about you, Greg, that I say, what was the best thing that happened? And you immediately think of your low point of the year. G'day, Fat Panda Cat. Barry Glenn got a bass guitar, just a Squire CVP bass, but good enough for me. Yeah, getting a bass. I know when I first got my bass, it was literally like a cashier's job. Cash converter's $90, but it's red, so it goes faster. Just having a bass guitar is actually cool. I would say to folks, don't spend $100 on some fancy plug-in. Get an instrument. Get something that's going to create sound, something real that's going to create some new sound. Just get a drum or get a bass guitar or a freaking violin. Jay got a violin like a couple of years ago. Like, just get yourself instruments, because even if you don't play them, like there's a ukulele sitting over there that I played about 3 times and then it went in the corner. But I'll pick that up again, and just having instruments around you, I don't know, it inspires me. So if you're going to spend money, don't spend money at all. But if you are, get an instrument. Maybe, speaking of drums, maybe if Barry had completed my dulcimer, that might have been a moment. Oh, Joe, sassy. Very sassy. Mark Bryant, my highlight was certainly Songtember. Really glad of what I did. Yeah, Mark, you did 2 songs, if I'm correct. Did you do one in French and one in English in Songtember? I remember it being pretty epic. And you finished them really fast too. Like, you just smashed them out. And you were just sort of sitting back with your arms back going, okay, suckers, I'm done. It was cool. Barry builds dulcimers? Well, apparently not. Apparently he doesn't. Thomas Christ released a new album and EP, celebrated 50 U-Rock shows and 100 Thomas Christ live shows. Yeah, Thomas has really crushed it this year. Like, I'm super proud. Like, we'll get a little sentimental here, but I'm really proud of other creators in this community. And I hope that in some way I've helped by inspiring and driving folks to continue to do stuff. And hopefully you looked at me and you went, hey, wait, if that bloke can do it, anyone can. And if I inspired you in that way, that was cool. But in the last year, we've seen Ron Ward, we've seen Jade Starr, we've seen Thomas Christ just continue going from strength to strength, creating more content. And I know many of you in this community really enjoy their shows and continue to watch me, but also finding new niches. And you know what? I'm not offended. I know some people have said, Pete, you're great and all, but I've moved on. I prefer X, Y, and Z. And the beauty part is you can have it all. You can stay here. It's okay. I won't be offended if you like someone more than me, or even if you don't have the time to watch all the shows. But I'll still be here. That's the good thing. Consistency. That's probably my highlight of this year, is that with all of the challenges, with getting the dreaded lurgy, with having some challenges with a child starting high school and another child in primary school, and all the things that go on with the day-to-day life that gets in the way, I still managed to complete every show every week. There wasn't a week, even when I had the dreaded Cove, we put together a nice best of compilation for the happy hour, and we still got a show out there. So 52 Your Music Lives, 52 happy hours in a 52 week year is pretty darn good. If you, I'm proud of it. Yeah. I was about to do that thing where I'm like self-deprecating in some way, but no, I'm actually bloody proud of that, and that's okay. Australians, it's okay to be proud. Just don't be a wanker about it. Biggest highlight for me, though, was being able to play a part in so many other musical releases. Yeah, mastering so much music for so many awesome folks. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the best things. I've seen so many good collaborations. I've seen so many people getting together and helping each other and helping inspire folks. And I know that some people have actually said to me that they wouldn't have the confidence to put their music out there if it wasn't for the kindness of other folks in this community. And that says a lot. To me, that is amazing. That is really good that is where it's at. Yes, they do. They call those BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. Yeah, I had a boss. The reason I don't call it that is I had a boss who loved that word so much. He's like, what's our BHAG? Like, every week we'd have a team meeting and he'd be like, all right, who's got a good BHAG? What's your BHAG? We're going to go for our BHAGs. And it's big, hairy, audacious goal. And yeah, so do you ever have anything like that where you just have that one person that used a phrase way too much to the point where now you can't stand it? So nothing personal, Leela, but had too much of that in my corporate days, and it's tainted it somewhat. Fat Panda Cat, I was gifted a Mexican Fender jazz bass. It's the year of basses, apparently. A little bittersweet. It belonged to my friend whose dad passed, and she didn't want to sell it. Well, yeah, that is bittersweet, but it is good to be able to keep those instruments within being played. I mean, she could have sold it off and it could go to cashies, and then some bloke could have bought it and chucked it in the back of a van. But you having that and knowing that you'll use it and put it to use and create music is pretty darn cool. I'm going to have a sip. I had a lot of highs and lows. Did a show on it. There you go. Leela did a high and low show. Maybe I should do a high and low show as well. Yeah, was it a Kiss face? Did you dress up as Peter Criss from Kiss? Poor Peter Criss, the cat. He never gets the love he deserves. The best thing so far, this stupid Mac M1 has been working for 2 weeks, but we'll give it time. Yeah, I guess 2021 was my big challenging year with hardware. I think for most of 2022, I've been good with hardware. There was a couple of challenges when we updated to Monterey from Big Sur. That made a couple of things break, and then am I on the next one? I don't think I'm even on the next one on my PC here. I did put it on my laptop. But on this one that I use for streaming, I'm still on whatever. I'm still on Monterey. I'm still on the last version, not Ventura. Is that the new one? I can't keep up. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I just can't keep up. I have to say, John, change your name, Jade. I have to say, Jade pulling our song apart and adding drums was a great moment. Yeah, a very cool moment. I do remember that Jade did some work on the drums of one of Joe and Barry's songs. And yeah, I know for Jade it was a challenge. Should we say a rewarding challenge, Jade? Because it did take a bit longer. I think you were going to do a show on it, and then you did a second show, and then I think you did a whole bunch more behind the scenes. So it came together really well, though. So good job. Smart words. Yeah, smart goal. Remember smart goals? It's got to be, oh, I can't even remember now. Something that's measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So you can't set a goal. And look, I've done shows about smart goals. I think they're actually relevant, but sometimes we use those keywords a little bit too much, don't we? Especially in the corporate world, they love it. When I left the corporate world, everything was getting into agile. So they were having scrums and there were scrum masters and everything was minimum viable product. And I'm just like, I'm out. I was like, mic drop, punk, I'm out. Can't do it anymore. Princess LDG decided to learn guitar because it was getting annoying trying to find a good sounding guitar plugin. That's the way some of us go, isn't it? I had the similar story when I was making a song that I wanted violin for. I was trying out all the violin sounds and all the string sounds, and they just weren't sounding good. And then it was actually Dan Baker, fellow YouTube and amazing musician Dan Baker, who said, "I'll play some violin on that for you, Pete." That's my Dan Baker, by the way. Really good, right? "I'll play some violin on that for you, Pete." And he did, and it was amazing. So yeah, sometimes you just got to go real. Be real. Hey, Feisty Feather, thank you for dropping on by. Appreciate you. Just scrolling down to see if we've got any more. By the way, if you're just joining us, I'm asking you this question, which is, what was your most memorable musical moment of 2022? I thought it would be a cool way to start the show. So if you are here live and you missed that question, do just throw that. Just waiting for keys for 2 years now. Oh, that is not good. 2 years is too long. Did the hat say Coopers or Loopers? Yeah, it should be. It almost looks like Loopers, doesn't it? With the loopy C. That would be cool. I should do that. I should create a knockoff brand, knockoff Coopers thing. Is it Poopers? Could be. No, hopefully not. Not during the show. Just scrolling down. Thomas Christ, I'm inspired to hear so much amazing music. YML, my show elsewhere. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty darn cool how much cool music. Like, I was looking back over the last year, and there were 652 individual artists that we featured on Your Music Live. So obviously some have been featured multiple times, some have been featured once, twice, etc. But 652 individual artists, individual bands, and individual creators that we featured on the show. That's amazing. And if you watched every show, that's 652 opportunities you've had to discover new music that you may love, which I think is pretty darn cool. I suppose I didn't do too bad in 2022. 11 covers and one original one. That's brilliant. Great. You crushed it, Gregory. Yeah. 11 covers. And some of those covers, your last couple of covers have been amazing, by the way. We played them over on Your Music Live. BHAG. I'm glad no one in the world has used that. Yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's a good concept. But again, any concept that is overused is not cool. It's like, what are the latest ones? I'm not going to lie, and it is what it is. Like they're 2022's rubbing Pete the wrong way words. I'm not going to lie, it is what it is. And look, I agree with you, but you don't have to tell me that you're not going to lie. I don't know. As soon as you say I'm not going to lie, I worry that maybe you are lying. Intriguing, right? Alex Bacchus, my highlights. My first release via DistroKid, yes. First music videos on YouTube, yes. Creation of an EDM metal track for Songtember. Alex's EDM metal track for Songtember was next level. I'm going to try and find it because I don't normally do this sort of stuff. But today, by the way, you probably already worked it out. Today's going to be a bit of a just randomness show. Now, which one was it? Was it Minor Problems? Was that the one that you did for Songtember? Let's just check the date stamp on this one. That's from August, so it must have been, is it Fairground? What was the name of the Songtember song? No, that was August as well. I'm not going to be able to find it, have I? Maybe it was this one. Alex, you've been producing too much music. I'm telling you. Yeah, this was the 28th of September. I'm pretty sure it was this one here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but let's see. Whoop, I'm going to share my screen. Burp. There you go. I think it was this one here. Yeah. It's cool. It's very cool. Yeah, go over and check out Alex Backus, Baccus, and check out Alex's music. Alex has been a long-time supporter of this channel, and yeah, the one with the beep, you folks will remember. If you know it, you know it. But Alex has been producing really good music around here for a long, long time. Yes, it definitely was. It was unexpected because Alex makes a lot of like very funky, very groovy, very digital music, and to hear just that guitar sounds and yeah, the rock coming through from Alex was awesome. Very cool indeed. Good question, Paul. By the way, yeah, if you've got questions, throw them out here. I'll start banking them if we get too many, but we're going to do some Q&A. We are going to go back and look at the highlights of GarageBand for 2022. It's going to be quick. There haven't been many. So we will do that as well. And as well look at what's happened with Apple in the last year, because there's been a heap of new products released. So we are going to get to that in just a moment. Cold Acre, highlight of 2022, playing a sold-out show and seeing people play air guitar. Oh, come on. No one's ever played air guitar to me in front of me. Back in the day, people did shout Nirvana at me because it was the 90s and everyone wanted to hear Nirvana songs, but no air guitar. And when I play now, it's just strum and folky chords. So no one's doing air folk guitar. It's not really a thing. We should make it a thing. Sup Axioms Underground, thank you for being here. EOS, a tribute concert for Taylor Hawkins. That was cool. I didn't watch all of it, I must admit, but I watched a lot of it. Yeah, it was sad. That was a sad loss, Taylor Hawkins. And unfortunately, I just read Dave Grohl's biography, autobiography, and listening to some of the stories of what they got up to. Not that it's a good thing, obviously, but it didn't surprise me. Those guys live on the edge and have lived on the edge for a couple of decades. So unfortunately, when you're teetering on the edge for that amount of time, it's like tightrope walker. Eventually, you're going to fall, and if you don't have a good net, then you're going to plummet, and it's sad, very sad. Chandler Brothers here in September. Yeah, Chandler Brothers, Sean and Patrick Chandler. I mean, your whole year has been a highlight musically. Created some amazing tunes. I know you and your family have had some highs and lows over the last year or two, but you've managed to harness some of that into some great music. And then that guitar, my goodness! If you haven't checked out, which video was it that debuted the guitar, the double neck beast? It was awesome. Many vibes that I found inspiring community to keep me picking up the guitar. Good job. Sometimes that's all you need. You just need people around you to support and encourage and help you do that. I'll throw your question, Omni Collective, because you've got a question there. I'm going to throw that in the questions that we'll get to in a moment once we've gone through everybody's highlights. Hey, Feisty Feather, hope you're doing well. Fat Panda Cat, too many to pick. There were some great album and song premieres this year on the channel. They really were, weren't there? Remember, this was the year of the Lily Pillies that kind of took the community by storm. We had some great premieres. We had Moonlight Thief. I interviewed Emily from Moonlight Thief. They are an amazing band and kicking butt. PA hit the scene in Your Music Live. Like, we just had too many to mention. I'm going to forget people, so I'm going to stop talking. But yeah, there are some amazing folks who've joined this community in the last year, which is good. Russ got a £1 million record deal. Yeah, it did. Truth. Not going to lie, Russ got a £1 million record deal. The sad news is he got a £1 million record deal, and the expenses are at 1.1 million, so he actually owes 100K. That's how it works sometimes. I got to see my first live show in over 10 years. There you go. Who did you see, Mark? You would have told us at the time, but who did you see? Oh, I've got to do the promo. By the way, merch on sale. StudioLiveToday.com/merch. Use the code BOXING for my Boxing Day sale. You'll save yourself 15% on mugs. And yeah, then I woke up, mugs and t-shirts and all the rest of them. If you want to check out the merch and you want to support the channel, just going to scroll down and see if we've got anyone else. My favorite professional releases this year were Interpol and the brilliant Wet Leg. Oh, Wet Leg. How good a Wet Leg? Yes, please check out Wet Leg. When they were first funnily enough, when they were first starting out, I reached out to them and I said, "Hey, you guys are really good. I'd love to, play songs on Your Music Live, and feel free to come on the channel." And then they just exploded. And not surprisingly, I never heard back from them. They got too big for me. Paul Huffman, I do have your question, Paul. We'll get to that in a sec. Most memorable moment was being asked to sit in with local Wonder Girl Megan Alder for a live set. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Sitting in with live musicians or getting to play with other musicians, especially ones that you look up to, very cool. Beep. Yep, the one with the beep. You remember the beep? It was very cool. Good stuff from Alex Backus. Keep scrolling down and we'll catch you up with everyone's... yes, it is your signature track. Ashley HM, boom to you, my friend. Princess LDG, I'm tagging you as we continue on there. There are so many of us, you'll have to say hi, Pete, and hi to everyone here. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of folks hanging out, but that's good. It is. It's that time of the year, isn't it, where a lot of YouTube is watched. Please watch all the YouTube. The advertisers have all gone away, people. Please watch as much as you can. No, it is fine. But December into January is a challenge because all of all the companies in the US in particular kind of work on a calendar year. So they get to December and most of them kind of roll back and wind up all their advertising. And then in January, they're doing all their budgets and they're working out how much they can spend. And everyone's not back in the office till like the 10th. So December, January for YouTube folks, if you want to support your favorite YouTubers, consider giving them a donation, consider joining their Patreon, watch as much as you can, just watch and like and subscribe and do all those things, because the more you do of that, the more your favorite creators are going to be able to survive through some of the tougher economic times that are happening right now. Omni Collective says, I wish Audio Kit Synth 1 was on AUV3 plugin because Interrupt Audio is trash with voiceover. I mean, it works, just clunky. Yeah, look, what did we get? Was it 4 years ago or 3 years ago that Apple came out and said that Interrupt Audio would be deprecated in future versions? I think it was iOS 13. In the notes for iOS 13, they said that Interrupt Audio would be deprecated in the future. I think they've realized just how much reliance there is on Interrupt Audio, because here we are, iOS 16.2 has not been deprecated yet, but hopefully in the future we'll have a more consistent play, because AUV3 works when it does, doesn't it? Thomas Grice says, grab the latest. Yeah, exactly. You've got all the merch there, studiolivetoday.com/merch. Code is boxing. We do have some new stuff coming in 2023. So it's not like it's print on demand, so it's not clearance, but I'm going to revamp a lot of things, including the merch in 2023. So if you want to pay the cheaper price and get 15% off, go and do it. Double Bill, Epica opening for Sabaton. Awesome show. Plenty of vids on YouTube. Very cool. Good stuff. That was the gigs that Mark went and saw. Why, thank you, Vidal and the Shadowy Figures. Sorry, that wasn't a guilt trip. I wasn't saying, please don't. You didn't have to. But yeah, as we always say around here, donations always appreciated, never required. But thank you, Vidal and the Shadowy Figures. There you go. That's another artist that probably 2021 we first heard from you. But yeah, definitely been sharing some great music in 2022. And there's something about that name, Vidal and the Shadowy Figures. It just sounds cool, doesn't it? Like if you could see, if you had that on a ticket, remember when you got tickets that were actually printed tickets? If it said Vidal and the Shadowy Figures plus guests, I'd be like, yeah, I'm lining up for that one. That would be cool. Let's see. Most memorable moment was finally buying a baritone sax to add to my sax family. Well, there you go. Paul Huffman has just revealed himself as a saxophone player, or as we would say here in Australia, a saxophonist. I only learnt this year that saxophonist is not a common word, and Americans call them saxophonist or saxophone player. But in the UK and in Australia, we say saxophonist. Saxophonist. There you go. I am live, Tremor Bear. Yeah, I know it's a weird time for me to be live, but everything's a day late because of good old Christmas. Yeah, I'll be putting I know. I'm glad I don't work in a office anymore, because I would do the same. Back when you used to have to date things all the time, I'd put the wrong year on for a very long time. Yeah, so many vibes and Barry just having a chat between themselves. Yeah, super sexy. All right, I've caught up. Great job. If anyone, again, if you haven't shared your most memorable moment and you're joining us through this, or if you weren't lucky enough to be here live and you're catching up on the replay, all you need to do is just drop that down in the comments, share your most memorable moment. And if you know anything about me, it's that I read every single comment. I have done for 7 years now. So February will be my 7-year anniversary on YouTube, or will it be 8? I've lost track. But anyway, and I've been replying to every single comment I've been receiving for that entire time. We are going to jump on in and do some news and notes, which is going to be a look back at the last 12 months and what's been happening, what the year in review has been happening for both Apple related stuff and also for GarageBand. And again, it won't take long. But before that, I wanted to quickly let you know that I've just speaking of revamped, I'm starting to revamp everything here on the website as well as on the channel, just to give it a bit of a fresh polish and sheen. Don't worry, nothing's going to change dramatically. I know a lot of folks fear change. Don't worry, it's not going to change that much. But I did revamp the GarageBand iOS FAQ, so it still has a link there to my beginner's guide, $10, and you can get 5 hours of curated content, all things GarageBand, and all transcribed as well. It's a beautiful little course over there. So, and again, I've kept it at $10, and it will always be $10. I'm not going to do weird sales and 78% off deals and things. Just $10 if you want it. Starting out with GarageBand, so you've got all the different playlists, so you can jump in there. I recommend this one, GarageBand iOS Essentials. That's got about 20 videos there that cover the essential stuff. You'll learn about EQ, you'll learn about compression, you'll learn about multi-track recording. You'll get started in GarageBand iOS. If you don't want to spend the $10, just go watch the Essentials playlist. It's not exactly the same. It's not the curated content, so there's a bit extra in there, but it's worth it. And then, this is what I've added in here. I realized that we didn't have links to the GarageBand community. So we've got the Facebook group there, the Create, Record, Release Facebook group, and the Studio Live Today Discord. So if you're into your Facebooks, join these two, because this one is purely GarageBand, Mac and iOS. This one is more about music in general. So even if you're not a GarageBand user, or if you're looking for advice on mixing, or if you're looking to collaborate, had a lot of cool collaborations in the group this year, you can join that one. If you're not a Zuckerberg fan, and I get it, and you want to do something a bit more independent, the Discord server is the place to go and hang out here in 2023, which is just around the corner. So if you want to go and check all of that out, there's only one place to go. It is studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand, and you can check all of that out. Let's jump back over to the comments. There you go. There is the FAQ. Ashley HN, I'm going to grab your question. We're going to answer questions in just a moment. A bonus about GarageBand is that now in 2.3.14, the arpeggiator window doesn't display the keyboard up top for blind people anymore. Previously, an issue with direct touch and focusing voiceover and placement. Yeah, and you'll hear that when we go through the highlights and lowlights. You're going to see that accessibility is one of the big highlights. Apple are continuing to focus heavily on accessibility, which can only be a good thing, right? Absolutely. I love it when I make a statement and then agree with myself immediately. I know, I read all of Princess LDG's comments and questions. And as you'll know, Princess, a lot of the time I direct you to videos that I already have. So that's why the GarageBand FAQ is good, because if I'm not around, you can go to the GarageBand FAQ, and more often than not, the question's answered already there. But I never mind answering. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Another free way to help me out is to just hit the like button, because it tells the YouTube robots to go and tell the other YouTube robots for everything else. GB accessibility is top notch for everything except for automating volume. Yeah, and I think that's why you'll never see automation of anything else in GarageBand, because it's clunky for sighted folks, Omni. So you're not alone there. It is clunky for us all. I can assure you of that one. Robots, yes, robots. I don't know. I say robots weirdly, don't I? It's a Futurama thing, the show Futurama, where it's like Zoidberg. I love the character Zoidberg, and he's like, "Oh, you robots are all the same." That's not a good Zoidberg. Let's answer some questions, and then we'll crack on to the year in review, because we're 28 minutes in, and I haven't actually mentioned anything about the last year in GarageBand yet. Why is there no banjo in GarageBand? Let's rant for a moment here, shall we? Let's rant about GarageBand and what it doesn't have and what it may never have. We need banjo. We absolutely need a new banjo instrument in GarageBand. I'd love a bit of mandolin action. Ukulele would be super cool. But let's be honest, GarageBand doesn't even have a good guitar. So the chances that we're going to see anything like that in the near or even in the distant future is a little slim. And when we dive into the next section, you'll very quickly see that one thing that hasn't happened in GarageBand in the last year is anything new out here. Everything's been under the hood. If you've noticed, we haven't had an additional tab on here since World Instruments. And that's a long time. There's nothing new here. Strings, bass, guitar, drummer, and drums, and external instruments and sound library and keyboard. Yeah, look, there's been a heap of new Alchemy synth patches. There's been a heap of new Apple loops. But there's nothing fundamentally that's changed on this screen to the point where if you go back and watch my videos about GarageBand 2.2 in 2018, it's exactly the same. So for nearly 5 years, this screen has been exactly the same ever since they added the world instruments back in GarageBand 2.2. So, yeah, why is there no smart banjo? Because it is not in Apple's priority list right now, and probably won't be, in all honesty. And I think, yeah, I'll save it for later. But I think that's why the future is external instruments and external plugins, because we're not going to, if you're a GarageBand user, you're going to have to start, if you want anything outside of what's already in there, you're going to have to start using external instruments, or, like we said before, buy a banjo and play it in. Omni Collective says, a question, did you know you can change the arpeggio in GarageBand while recording a keyboard or Alchemy synth? Learn that yesterday. You can change the arpeggio in GarageBand while recording a keyboard or Alchemy synth track. I didn't know that. How do you do that? I'm not sure what that means. Let's try and recreate this. So if we come in here, we come in and we create an arpeggio. Let's just go to the keyboard and we'll just create a very basic arpeggio here. So you can change it while recording. Oh, so you can, are you saying that you can change it up on the fly as you're recording? I didn't know that. Hang on, let's try this. We're going to record. Can we access it? Oh, so we're holding down. If you change it here, oh, I can't. Oh, you can too. Who knew that? There you go. I mean, you kind of have to be, you have to be using multiple hands, I guess, to do it, because I'm only using one hand on my touchpad and on my keyboard, because the other, I don't know why, the other one was holding my coffee. But yeah, there you go. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that it doesn't surprise me, because a lot of the functions are actually active while you're recording. So another tip there, if you're using Alchemy synths, so this is a tip for young players, if you're using Alchemy synths, I'll just come in here to some faded keys. Did you know that if you're recording some keys here in GarageBand, you can actually be playing and twiddle your knobs at the same time, and it will actually record in those knob movements. I've showed it before here on the channel, I know, but it's kind of amazing for a lot of folks that you can see here. See, look, Ma, no hands. It goes and twiddles the knobs. And obviously that's not really cool. But if you're doing things like a filter sweep, because you can come over here and you can do things like changing your filter, changing your attack and release times and your sustain levels, and increasing or decreasing the bell. So there's some cool stuff you can do within the keyboard instruments there in GarageBand. But good tip, I did not know that one. I did not know that you can actually adjust things, even the ARP, when you're doing that. Question, L, will you start using Logic? I'm going to be getting Logic at some point, and I'm stuck making music on the iPad. Yeah, look, the original plan was to use more Logic. Sorry, I answered that question with look. That's a politician thing. We used to have a prime minister here in Australia. We still do, but we used to have another one. And he would answer every question with look. And it was so school teacher, just asshole talk. So I will attempt. There you go. There's my New Year's resolution, to not answer any question with look. Because look, it's almost like, yeah, if you ask a question, so why did you do such a bad job at the start of the pandemic, Mr. Prime Minister? Look, there were lots of factors, yeah, like that. But no, not look. Yes, so 2023, I'm planning to use Logic a lot more. I did buy it at the end of 2021, and I did intend to use it a lot in 2022. I got a little bit, again, for all the reasons that I talked about before, I got a little overwhelmed in 2022 with a lot of other things going on. So just doing the shows every week was more challenging, but I do love Logic. And the other thing was, there wasn't anything I needed from Logic. But I do want to start doing some, not complex things, but I want to get the keyboard back out. I want to start doing more composing, embracing a lot more of the different instrument sounds. And that's something that Logic really does excel with. It has some amazing instruments in there. So I'm going to go and play around with that. So yeah, short answer is yes, I certainly intend to and hope to. Ashley HM, is that a DistroKid plushie you have on your shelf in the background? It is indeed. Let me show you. I'll wind back. Wait, am I wearing pants? Yes, I am. That's okay. I'm wearing shorts though. I'll grab this stuff. So, I've been working with DistroKid for a number of years, and they're a super nice company. And I don't. I hesitated to sort of share this, but I thought I'd put it in the background. But since you've asked, I'll let you know. They sent a little Christmas gift, and they did it last year and they did it again this year. And what we got was this little fella. It's the DistroKid Gremlin. So he's a little DistroKid Gremlin plushie, and he's adorable. So a little DistroKid label on there. So yeah, love that one. Very, very cool stuff. And this, you've probably seen other creators showing this off, but the DistroKid Music Production ABCs. It's like a children's book, and it's the ABCs of everything. So you've got like their jack. A jack is where we plug in cables, instruments. So it goes A, B, C, D all the way through to Z, and it's got all the different things, different noise gate, makes quiet sounds silent. And it's really well illustrated and really well put together. So maybe we'll do a special bedtime story reading of the Music Production ABC's DistroKid book. But yeah, it's just another, again, I don't like to sort of shout it from the rooftops because I tell you enough about why I love DistroKid, but they're a human company. Does that make sense? That they have such a human face compared to a lot of look, I work with a lot of great companies. And it's the people that make the companies, isn't it? People that make the businesses, as opposed, like you would know that from YouTube. The creators that you like, the channels you love is because of the person, because of the creator themselves, because of the human, not necessarily all the fancy bells and whistles. It's why I don't have $1 million studio. Yeah, that's why I don't have $1 million studio. No, because it's more about how you do things, not what you've got. So thank you for your questions. I will jump back over here. The virtual guitars do sound cool with Tonebridge. Yeah, don't forget that you can use Tonebridge, so you can throw a virtual guitar on and then put it through any AUV3 plugin you like, including the free Tonebridge, which is very cool. In GB's defense, I've never heard a great guitar. No, spot on. Try the guitars in any DAW. Cubase's has even worse guitars somehow, so it is the deal. I saw a tip that something in world music can be made into a band. Yeah, so there is good tip. If you're looking for a banjo-like sound, there is an option that you have over here. Oh, I'm going to do that. Did the Rangers play earlier today? Oh, I thought that was later. Boo. So if you come in here to the world instruments, there is what is called the Chinese banjo. I'm pretty sure that's okay to call it that, which is the peeper. This one here. So, I mean, with that, in the major pentatonic scale, obviously it sounds more like world music, but you can actually change that. So if you wanted to make it more like a banjo, if you put the major scale on here, I'll just turn this up so you can hear it. Yeah, so you can use the peeper for some banjo adjacent kind of sounds. It's pretty cool. So do jump in there. There you go. That's going in the list here, by the way, of future things that I'm going to do. Because every time I do this, see, the majority of the content that you see here on this channel is because of your comment. That's why I read every comment. It's not only that I want to do the nice thing, but it's that all the ideas I get for new videos come from you, and that's a pretty nice one. So Chinese, so banjo, and you can already see what it's going to be. It's going to be a slightly clickbaity one. It's like banjo in GarageBand ? And everyone's like, oh well, maybe there's a banjo in GarageBand. I'm like, no, not really. You just use this, and then everyone's like, boo, we hate you, Johns. I always thought the GB's virtual acoustic was pretty. The acoustic's not bad. It's the sound is okay. The sampled sound. It's more that there's no way to get a really natural sounding strum. If you're using arpeggios or you're using as a lead instrument, Thomas, agree. But just the strumming sound has never quite sounded right, in my particular opinion. Yeah, the acoustic is one of the best I've heard in a DAW. I had to buy Bias FX to get a decent electric. Yeah, you'll need Bias. You'll need something like that. Music, yeah, really. I know. I need to get into Logic. Music Tech Help Guy for Logic is a good resource. Yeah, Music Tech Help Guy is who I send people to for Logic, and that's the other thing. Like, even if when I start using Logic, I don't want to just do things worse than people that are already better at it. In terms of educating people. So yeah, I do want to use it, and I think where I need to be is very beginner stuff. So knowing that the vast majority of my audience and my community are GarageBand users or are BandLab users, Cakewalk users, they're starting out, they're at the start of their journey. I'm not going to go into deep, Logic. Let's do some Dolby Atmos mixing. I got in trouble even when I talked about that, when I tried it. So I'm not going to go down that path. If there's things that why Logic Pro Rules and Music Tech Help Guy are already doing, I don't need to be there. I don't need to be in that space. Like, I need to find an interesting niche. So my niche will probably be guy makes first song in Logic, because I've never completed a song in Logic yet. I've started some, but I've never completed some. So the goal is to get a song. So yeah, GarageBand using Logic for the first time after 5 years of GarageBand, that could be the way to go. Yeah, why Logic Pro Rules is also, yeah, exactly. There you go. They're the two that I recommend that you go and check out. Yes, it's the people that make the companies that make people. Hopefully more companies realize this. Yeah, I think so. It is hard. It's hard to scaling humanity. That would be a good name for like a business book, because I think as soon as people start trying to scale things, you lose that human touch. And I've seen this with businesses that I've worked with where they're little startups, and you talk to the founder and you talk to the creator and they're all passionate. And then you get a few years in and they get super successful. And then you're talking to like 3 levels down that have just been hired to come on board to manage a particular aspect. And especially people in marketing and sales and things, they've got a very different view about sales and marketing. It's not about the people, it's about the numbers. And that can be a challenge that a lot of founders have. So again, if Studio Live today became an empire and you could no longer get direct access to me, I think that would be sad. But again, if I had 1 million people here instead of 100,000, it might actually be too hard to have that direct access. So hopefully then, if I did have help, it would be the right people that can continue to have that. I know, I don't think they're selling them yet. Actually, let's check, because there is the DistroKid merch on distrokid.com. It's really hard to find their merch store, because when you go there and it drops you into your thing, I don't think you can get to it from here. Oh look, they've changed their little menu again. You can get to their store from the page, but not when you're logged in. What if we just search DistroKid merch? Maybe it's gonna merch store. There it is. So they've got, no, they don't have it there yet. So you can, by the way, if you want a DistroKid t-shirt, hat, hoodie, the beanie, the snap. Oh, I need the snapback. I've got this hat, but snapbacks look better on my head, as you can see here. So I might have to buy myself a snapback, and the amazingness that is the toenail clipper, which gets a lot of use in our house. My wife's always like, I need some clippers. Can you grab the DistroKids? Yes, yeah, the peeper as a banjo is a good thing. Yeah, there you go. So Thomas Christ has already looked at it's store.distrokid.com. There it is. Russ says Synth One has the worst irrational volume levels of any app. There you go. Not cool, not fun. Let's see. All right, I think I've caught up with, not on the merch site. I know, sad. There you go. I'll pass that feedback on, though, that people want the DistroKid Gremlin. The thing is, weird thing with merch is it's amazing what people do and don't want. And some of it's kind of niche. And I guess with a plushie, the hard thing is that they're very custom made, whereas a lot of stuff can be print on demand. If it's just a black thing, I guess the plushie would have to be custom made. So they'd need to make enough to then be able to justify selling them. And I don't know, I'd probably buy another one. They're super cute. Little gremlins, it's cool. Yeah, it's probably in the works. No DistroKid, it's just in the works. All right, 42 minutes in. This one might be a long one, folks. We normally try to do an hour on the show, but we may be going well and truly over. But that's okay, because it's the last show of the year. It's just a little casual chat here. But I did want to go back in time. I'm just going to find my notes here. There they are. And talk about the last year, because a lot has gone on, and I'm going to use the Apple website as an aid for this. So we're going to talk hardware first, and then we're going to talk software, because the software is going to be quick. Nothing's changed. Sorry, I keep tipping that, but let's take a look at this. So in March of 2022, we had an announcement from Apple. There's going to be a lot of this. So we had new products. We had the Mac Studio, we had the iPad Air 5th generation, and the new iPhone SE. So the interesting thing here was that we were waiting on a Mac Pro. All the creators, everyone using Logic especially, were waiting on a Mac Pro, because we'd had the Mac Mini, we had the MacBook Pro using the M1. We were looking for something like a Mac Pro with the M1. Instead, we got the Fat Mini. We got the Mac Studio, which is like a Mac Mini on steroids. Big chunky monkey with a lot of connectivity there, like 4 Thunderbolt ports, 2 USB ports, HDMI, an actual headphone jack, the Ethernet. Like it had a lot of things, and this was running the M1 Max and the M1 Ultra. So it was a powerhouse. And a lot of people have grabbed these. Look, it's called the Mac Studio. It's deliberately aimed at folks running Logic, folks running not Final Touch. What is the what is the Final Cut Pro? So it's aimed at people running studios in and creating music and video. So it's amazing. It's a powerhouse, and it did really well. But it was no Mac Pro, and that's what people were kind of waiting for. So that was probably the most interesting announcement at the start of the year. Is that we didn't get a Mac Pro, but we got a Mac Studio. And spoiler alert, we still haven't had a Mac Pro, which we were supposed to. They did say they'd refresh their whole line within 2 years. 2 years is up. They haven't refreshed the Mac Pro. If you go into the Mac, there's this big gap. Everything's new, but if you go to this one, it's the old cheese grater. It's not been upgraded, and it's still got the old Intel stuff in there. So there is still not an upgradable M1 or M2 Mac anywhere in the range. The other things that happened there, I won't talk about the iPhone. It was just a new version of the SE, which is actually a really good phone, but it's not really what people use for creating. But Apple went this weird route with the iPad Air. They stuck the M1 chip in the iPad Air. So we're in the wrong spot. iPad Air. So the 5th generation iPad Air basically became almost identical to the 11-inch iPad Pro, which is really weird because they released the M1 iPad Pro the year before, and then they released the M1 iPad Air. And it made it really confusing because now when you go to buy a new iPad, you've got 3 options. You've got iPad, you've got iPad Air, and you've got iPad Pro, and you've even got iPad Mini. So there's actually 4 options that you have there. And the iPad Air is almost exactly the same as the iPad Pro M1. And until they released the M2, it really didn't make a lot of sense. The only difference was really Thunderbolt versus USB-C, and it was a bit much of the same. The iPod, unfortunately, the reason that you don't see the word iPod anywhere here, and you cannot buy an iPod, is that the iPod went away. And me being me, I had to say farewell to the iPod by buying the last ever iPod, which I've got in red, of course, because as we know, it goes faster. But I've always loved iPod Touches. And I had an iPod Touch 1st generation and 3rd generation, and then this is the 7th generation iPod Touch. So this thing's pretty good. It runs GarageBand, which is why it's sort of relevant. It no longer gets updates because it was running the latest software right up to iOS 15, but with the iOS 16 that needs the newer chips, it did not make the cut. It was just under that with its A10 processor, I think. So we'll be stuck on iOS 15 forever. But a great little unit. The reason I love this, if I just want to watch YouTube, if I just want to listen to music, I don't have a lot of my social media stuff on this. So this is like my old school, like consumption device. So it's not much a creation device, it's a consumption device. So I would recommend it if you're like me and sometimes you just don't want to be online. You don't want to be bugged too. You don't want to be bugged by phone calls and social media posts. Then iPod Touches are actually cool because they don't have to be online, basically. July, the M2 revolution began. So in July of 2022, we started seeing things like the MacBook Air and the other MacBook Pro get the M2 chip. So the MacBook Air now comes in two flavors, comes in the M1 and the new M2 chip. And you can see the price difference there, $1,500 to $1,900. That's here in Australia. That's, I think, $9.99 versus $12.99 US. So at this point in time, both of these are great. If you're a GarageBand user, look, that says, I thought they said Russ, but it says Rugs. I thought it was an homage to our own Russ 8889. Yes, but it just says Rugs. But so the MacBook Air has that. They also updated the MacBook Pro, but the MacBook Pro is the most confusing thing in the world. There's the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which uses the old body with the touch bar and all the old format, and then there's the new ones. Don't buy this. Just simply don't buy the MacBook Pro 13-inch. It is not worth it because you get all the old hardware, like all the old body. Yeah, you get an M2 chip in it, but it is no different to the MacBook Air. It's so similar to the MacBook Air that if you're going to go with the brand new one, just get the MacBook Air M2. Don't get the MacBook Pro 13-inch. If you want more power, I have the MacBook Pro 14-inch, and it is brilliant. I love it. I use it on the daily, and it is great. So if you want a high-performance portable Mac solution, go that one. If you want a sort of lower cost but still good one, go the MacBook Air. Do not get the MacBook Pro 13-inch. It makes no sense. So So that was July. We had the new Macs. We didn't get any Mac Mini or Mac Studio with M2, and we still haven't got those. I know. September was all about the dynamic island, the iPhone 14 Pro with its dynamic island. Look at that. You come to it and it's like immediately like, look at our island. We don't have notches anymore on our Pro devices. We have islands. So that was the news from September from iPhones. But look, like most things, I think if I had to summarize the hardware updates in the last year, it is that it has been evolutionary, not revolutionary. It has been iterative changes. So if you own an iPhone 13, you're not going out and buying an iPhone 14. The reason they put the Lonely Island in there, the dynamic island, is so that people with iPhone 13s would upgrade, because there are people out there that need to just be seen. They need the flex power of having the latest. And if they had a notch, people would know I've only got a 13, man, not a 14. That'd be terrible. So if you want that, you can do that. They also brought out the iPhone 14, this sucker here, which is, again, just an iterative update on the iPhone 15. For me personally, none of the phones in the last 2 years have been enough to make me bother going past the iPhone 12 Pro, which is what I've been using for 2 years, and I'll probably keep skipping. I was considering the 14, and I'm coming out of contract because I pay them off over 2 years anyway, but I'm probably just going to not pay an extra fee for a phone for a little while and enjoy only paying, $60 for my phone plan, not $120 every month. But we'll see how that goes. Pete says air. Pete says air the same way, like a two-syllable word. Air. Yeah, air. iPhone, iPad Air. Yeah, you're right. Not air. Like, Air. Like some people would say it like that. iPhone Air. Rugs 8889. Absolutely. DaVinci Studio for iPad is out. It will work on most iPads, but is limited if you don't have the M1. There you go. Yeah, I did know that the DaVinci Resolve was going to come out there. Fat Panic hates the lack of USB ports on the older Mac Minis. Had 4. I know. And look, I'm just living the dongle life now. I'm doing the thing with the dongles now. That's what I have to do. Oval Islands. I like that idea. There you go. Yeah, it's the islands. It's the time of the islands. And then we weren't done, because in October we got one final update for the year, and it was iPad related, and it was the new iPad Pro. So the new iPad Pro M2 hit the market, which, as Thomas just mentioned, is running the new apps like DaVinci Resolve, which has been released. How much is it, by the way? Let's have a quick look. App Store iOS DaVinci Resolve. Let's see if we can find it. There's the Mac. Here it is on the iPad App Store. Don't open the App Store. No. Oh, is it going to work? It's not going to show us. There you go. It's in-app purchases. Okay, so you can get it, and it has your in-app purchases. Well, there you go. So we'll no doubt be playing around with that. I don't know if it'll be enough to get me away from LumaFusion. I just know LumaFusion like the back of my hand now, but cool to have a new Pro video editing option for iOS, especially if you have the M1 or the M2. Should be free, then the Pro costs more. There you go. Yep, that's what it is. Spot on. You can update it. You can upgrade it to the Pro if you need to. So the final thing we got, iPad Air M2. Now, this is the iPad Pro. Very similar, 11 and 12.9 inch. Basically almost identical to the M1, except it's got the M2. It's got the faster processor, the same 8 gigabytes of RAM, or 16 gig if you get the 512 or no, 512? No, 1 or 2 terabyte model. And look, apart from that, it's not a whole lot different from this. Like I do the reviews of all the Apple events, and this one was like, It reminded me of the Malibu Stacy, because it was just the M1 iPad Pro, and it's like, but it's got a new chip. It's like, but she's got a new hat. So it was the same sort of thing there. Look, if you're buying an iPad Pro right now, M1 or M2 really doesn't matter, because if you're using it for the next 5 years, I don't think. I mean, look, quote me on this. Famous bad quotes from Johns, but there's very few folks. If you need the power of the M2, you know you need it. It's a bit like the M1 Ultra and Max chips. If you need that power, you know you need it. For your average Logic or GarageBand user, you're definitely not going to need it. That's my thoughts. Yeah, $99 US is it for the Pro for DaVinci Resolve? Yeah, probably not something I'll bother with. I already have it. I already have a video editing app. Like, again, as Jade always says, they're not Pokemon. You don't have to collect them all. And especially if you're already using something that works for you, I don't think DaVinci Resolve is not going to make you do better videos. It's a bit like going from GarageBand to Logic. It's not going to instantly make your music better, but it's going to give you more options and more features that may be fun to play with. So if you just want to experiment with it and you want to try something new and you want the new hotness, go try it out. It's free to try. So go get the regular version. But yeah, the Pro version, I don't know. I don't think I'll be bothering with it personally because, again, LumaFusion does everything that I need and I don't need it at all. What a terrible choice. Buy new Apple products or buy new horns. Yeah, no. And look, that's the thing. I've got to the end of that, have I? No. The iPad 10th gen. That's the other thing. The iPad also got an upgrade. So the iPad regular, the iPad vanilla, got the new 10th gen iPad, which is actually a bloody powerhouse. So this one here, the 10th gen iPad, is amazing because it's running the A14 Bionic chip. It's got the 10.9-inch display. It's basically the new Air. So the Air is like the old Pro. The Pro is still the Pro, the new Pro. The iPad 10th gen is like the old iPad Air. The iPad 9th gen is like the old iPad. Oh, it's so confusing. Like, I would not want to be buying it. Basically, it just all comes down to, if you just want to create in GarageBand and you don't need all the bells and whistles, get a 9th gen iPad right now. If you want a few more bells and whistles, get the 10th gen iPad. I would skip the iPad Air almost entirely now because it's just a weird hybrid thing. And if you need the Pro features, get the Pro. So it's almost like small, medium, and large here at this point in time, that if you just get the 9th gen. So my daughter just got a 9th gen for Christmas because she doesn't need the power of this, and we didn't need to spend an extra $200 to give her stuff she's not going to use. So she got the iPad 9th gen, and she's fine with that. I'm still using an old iPad 2020 Pro because I'm fine with that as well. I don't need anything new. So yeah, there's no need to update and upgrade if it's not going to do anything for you. Don't drink the Kool-Aid and go and just spend all the money if you don't need to. So that's what we've had. Look, we're spoiled, and here's the tip. So again, as I said, I've bought zero stuff. I've bought no new iPads. I've bought no new Macs, no new MacBooks, no new Apple products. So Apple would not be liking me right now because I haven't. I mean, my children have, but I haven't bought a new Apple product in the last year because I've kind of been seeing what I can do, and I've been realizing, I made an old man realization that I don't need a lot of this stuff. I don't need all the new shininess, and that's a bit weird because I probably should be getting more of it for the channel to make all the content, but I don't know. I also at the same time think that it's a good example to set that the wastage, the e-waste that we're seeing in here with all the products that people are buying and then rebuying and the disposable technology, the lefty hippie side of me says we should be doing a bit better with that. So that's where we're at. But yeah, you do you. Go buy stuff. And if you do buy things, go to studiolivetoday.com/gear and click through. The good news is, well, I was going to finish on here. The great news is with so many new products, the ability to get older products at cheaper prices, refurb products, new inbox old products is really cool. For instance, my daughter needed a new phone and she's going into like 8th grade. So I'm not buying her like the newest and greatest. And she was lucky enough though that her dad's a nerd and I do buy things. But I was able to pick up an iPhone 11 at a really good price. And guess what? iPhone 11s are still amazing devices. And it was brand new in box, works great. She's happy, I'm happy. I spent half as much as I would have on a new phone. So you can get a lot of that older gear. You can get a lot of the refurb or the old replaced stuff if you do a little bit of shopping around. G'day, Mars Capone. Hope you are doing well. Besides the way you say Australian, Nigel McGill says, Aya. Bob's your uncle. Yeah, Bob's your uncle. Bob's everyone's uncle here in Australia. As Russ says, yeah, Logic is a good tool, but it doesn't give you a better musician. Practice does. Spot on. Hello, Crow on a wire. Handling lots of clips from multiple sources would be kind of difficult on the iPad. Yeah, look, it is. It's not as easy, but, got external storage support on the iPad these days. So, yeah, if you got clips, it depends. Because the iPad, you could just plug you could just plug in. You need dongles, obviously. You need to connect things. But you're right. Compared to a laptop where you can just bung an SD card in if you've got some DSLR or some mirrorless footage, you can connect up an external hard drive to bring things in. It is easier in a lot of ways to do things on a desktop. I'm not going to ever debate that. A lot of people think I'm going to get into big debates because not you, Crowder, but a lot of people want to kind of try and trigger me, I guess, by saying, "Oh, yeah, you're such an idiot because using a mobile device. Why wouldn't you just buy a real computer, noob?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, if you want to, but some people prefer to create a mobile. The good news for me, the great thing for me, is that I can create something on my iPad here in the studio. I can throw it over to my iPhone. I can walk out the door and go for a walk down by the river, and I've still got all of my content and all of my stuff right here. I edit videos while I walk along the river, which I'll be doing later today. So yeah, it's horses for courses. If you want to be stuck in a studio environment all the time, then you can use a desktop and you probably get slightly quicker and better results. If you want to be sort of in between, you can get a laptop and you can be semi-portable. If you want to be completely free and be able to go play with the ducks while you play with your while you edit your video, then you can be mobile and it's all good. Question: will an M1 chip be good for Logic Pro? Absolutely. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but when the M1 chip first came out, a lot of people were just grabbing absolute base level Mac Minis, throwing Logic Pro on with like 1,000 tracks and putting 100 plugins, and it was fine. So every test I've seen that's been, those over the top kind of tests has shown that the M1 chip does amazingly well with Logic Pro. Obviously an M2 would be slightly better, but I don't think you need to go the extra expense if you're just making the sort of music we make. If you are a producer and your average track count is 100 plus and your average plugin count is 10 plus and you're using Waves plugins and you're using Isotope and using all these processor intensive plugins, sure, an M2 is what you need, but you'll kind of know that. If you're asking the question, the answer is yes, basically. And especially if you're moving from GarageBand or you're looking for your first Mac, M1 is fine. Just, I think as folks said, if you can go to 16 gigabytes of RAM, do that. That's probably more important. M1 with 16 is greater than M2 with 8, in my opinion, because you'll hit that RAM wall a lot quicker than you'll hit that processor wall. Omni Collective says, even whenever I need 1,000 tracks between 30 and... Exactly. Like, you very rarely need that many. And even 100 tracks. Like, my average track count for a song is around about 20. Because I don't know. I make folk music. I make rock music. I don't need a lot of tracks. So that's it. All right. So that was our hardware year in review. It's definitely been a big year for the hardware that you can run GarageBand on. I'm still running all my GarageBand and my Logic on the same hardware I was before. And again, I can't reinforce this enough. Don't spend a lot of time and effort and money and thought thinking about what you should get and what you should use. Because the good thing is that we're at the point now where people complain about the fact that all the new releases, the new iPhone, the new iPad, the new Macs, they're now not revolutionary. They were. The move from Intel to M1 chips for Macs was revolutionary, and the move to like the A13 and A14 and now the M1 chips on your mobile devices was revolutionary. Everything now for probably the next decade, again, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong, is just going to be little iterative stuff, because we're really hitting this wall now of the size of processors, the size of chips, and just the logistics, plus what we actually need. Like, remember the days where you'd buy a PC and then like the next year it would be almost obsolete because we were moving so fast. We went from 4 megabytes of RAM to 16 megabytes of RAM to gigabyte of RAM to 4 gigabytes of RAM. Like that's been the last 20 years. The next 10 years is not going to be anything like that, because the computer that I have, like my PC from 10 years ago still works fine. The Mac M1 that I bought, the base model that you're seeing me stream with right now, I bought 2 years ago. It's only got 8 gig of RAM and it's got the absolute basic setup. It still works fine. And I'm not going to replace it until I need to, until it starts not working for what I need to do. If I start streaming 4K video or something, I need it. So that's all I got to say about that. G'day, Rob Crusoe. Hope you are doing well. Supper time for Mark Bro, no problem. If you want to catch the rest of the show, please do on Le Replay. Beatles started with 8 tracks. Hard to imagine now. I know. Beatles started on 4-track and 8-track recorders. You just had to double up. You just had to do a whole bunch of editing and overdubbing, and you were good. Is there a Bluetooth thingy to use Loopy Pro with your foot instead of your finger? Bluetooth foot controllers for Loopy Pro. What a great question. I don't know the answer. There are hardware controllers that you can use with your foot. I have one. Is it over there? Is it over in that bank of gear? I can't see it. I reviewed it a few years ago. It's an audio interface, but it also is a MIDI CC controller, so you can use it for anything like that. Let's just see if I can find my video on it, because it's pretty cool. Pete John's audio interface guitar. And full disclosure, the company actually sent it to me. Did I? There it is. It's the Xtone Pro interface. So there are interfaces like this one. So you can see there on the thumbnail. But I'll just bring up this video real quick. There it is. So you can see there that this has basically got, A, B, C, D, E, F. It's got little foot switches there. So I've not tried it with Loopy Pro, but there are a lot of other devices like this. I think IK Multimedia makes similar ones as well. I think Jade's got one of theirs. They've got their Axe series. But yeah, if you get something, Bluetooth, I would say is not going to be good for looping because looping requires precise timing. And for all of the things that Bluetooth is good for, precise timing ain't one of them. So I would think that you would not, like Bluetooth, you can get good for like page turners and things like that. So something that's not time dependent, but when you're looping, every millisecond counts. And I think that you would get too much lag from a Bluetooth device to be able to use it with a looping app. That would be my take on it as someone who doesn't loop. If someone else has got more, then you can do that. I use AirTurn, use it with stage tracks. So yeah, and I think that's what our friend Samantha Edge uses. She uses an AirTurn. It's like a page turner for buskers and for live performers and things. So I think Bluetooth is good for that, but I would doubt that it's good for looping. More than happy to be proven wrong on that one. All right, I've been leading up to this, but let's talk about, now that we're an hour and 5 minutes into the show, let's talk about GarageBand, the year in review for GarageBand. And I went into the weeds for this one, and I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll go back through the updates, all of the updates for 2022 for both GarageBand on Mac and GarageBand on iOS. And do you know what I found? I found virtually nothing. So let's talk about Mac to start with. So the release notes here. And as I said before, the good news is for folks like Omni Collective Creativity and vision impaired folks, the accessibility on both Mac and especially on iOS has continued to be at the forefront of what Apple have been done. And look, you could say that things like the American with Disabilities Act, which says that they need to do this anyway. Every web page, every app needs to be accessible. That's probably pushing them along a little bit. The European Union are very strong on that stuff too. But I think that Apple have just always had a bit of an upper hand in this. There's very few folks, if you are vision impaired or if you have accessibility issues, that are out there buying Android devices, because every Android iteration is different and every manufacturer does things slightly different. The good thing about the walled garden closed structure of Apple is that accessibility is a lot easier because every device uses the exact same hardware and the exact same software. It means that if you implement an accessibility feature, it is going to work the same on everyone's device. You're not going to have variations because one person's got Samsung and one person's got Google and one person's using Huawei. It doesn't work that way in the Apple world. So for all the bad things of the closed walled garden, it has some good things. So we looked through, and by the way, go over to Patrick at the GarageBand Guide. He's covered the Mac version upgrades a lot more than I have, but accessibility, VoiceOver now correctly announces the state of mono, stereo, selector, and smart controls. And the second, so this is for the latest version, the second spurious button for keyboard sensitivity and smart controls is no longer present when using VoiceOver. There was performance updates. GarageBand no longer remains stuck on guitar lesson page, which is good. Intel audio unit plugin now load and function as expected. Import from voice memos can now be dragged directly onto a track. So I guess that's the actual update that is a change. So that's a good thing. So instead of you having to save your voice memo and then go in and do import and then select the location, you can just drag and drop that in there. Export and bounce, performance, bounce, and replace all tracks with include automation. Deselected no longer. So that's basically issues. And here's some general stuff that they've just fixed. So a lot of stuff is bug fixes. And the joke that I have with Patrick is that poor Mac users, it's like bug fixes and stability improvements. They may as well just have that at the top of every new GarageBand released. As GarageBand 10.4.6 that we had earlier in the year, choosing to go left indicator and go right commands move through a song project may now be performed using key commands. Yay! So that was actually a good one. You can now actually use the keyboard to go right and left, because when I first started using GarageBand on Mac, man, scrolling left and right was a pain in the rectum. Big time. And then you've got stability. It no longer closes unexpectedly when sharing to SoundCloud. VoiceOver now correctly announces the state of the record button. I'd imagine that that's pretty handy. You know whether you're recording or not if you're using accessibility. Plugins, you had some changes today. The graph in the EQ looks right. importing files. So yeah, so this is where they had files that could be dragged directly from music into GarageBand, and then they added it for voiceover in the next one. And the piano roll tab now retains changes made to the quantized value when the song is saved, closed, and reopened. Yeah, so there was basically all Apple are doing here in these updates is fixing the things that were broken in previous versions. And then 10.4.5, again, there's really nothing here. As you can see, there's nothing even at the top there with new features. Everything is just fixing and tweaking the thing. And then the 10.4.4 was the producer packs, where they just added in all of the loops and all the stuff from the producer packs that were added in iOS in 2021. So safe to say, not a whole lot of change in GarageBand on Mac. And you could argue that that is deliberate. So there's two schools of thought here on why GarageBand Mac is not changing. Number one is it's got everything. So it already has everything that they've added and updated. So if you remember GarageBand Mac, or if you've checked it out, GarageBand Mac back in the day was very much like a demo writing, a testing it out kind of thing. It was all virtual instruments. And over time, they've increased the track count, they've added 24-bit audio, they've added new virtual instruments, they've added the ability to connect and record externally from microphones and from guitars. And they've got it to the point now where it does everything that any other entry-level DAW does. If you just want to create a track that's 16 tracks or 32 tracks and use GarageBand, you're going to have everything you need. All the plugins are in there. All of the automation options are in there. There's not a whole lot to add. So short of it adding new features like the live loops grid, there's nothing really it can do. And speaking of the live loops grid, that's point two. The reason it's not going to add that is that that's in Logic Pro. So when you buy a new Mac, you get GarageBand. Every new Mac is shipped with GarageBand. I get trouble for saying GarageBand is free because people say, yeah, GarageBand is free. Just buy a $1,000 computer and get your free GarageBand. So now I say GarageBand is included. It is bundled in every new Mac. So you get GarageBand for free. Logic Pro costs $199 or $319 if you're lucky enough to live here in Australia. So they don't want you, they're not going to add all of the Logic features. If GarageBand just added everything that Logic had, why would you ever buy Logic? The logic there doesn't fit. So that's sort of point two. Number one is everything's already there. I think Apple are pretty happy with what they've got in GarageBand, which is why so many of the updates are bug fixes and stability improvements. And number two is they don't want to cannibalize sales of Logic Pro. That would be it. GB needs MIDI output. Yeah, it does, especially GarageBand iOS. Apple, I feel, has pivoted a bit from being all about creativity, art, music, to more about lifestyle, fitness. Absolutely. Very valid point. And we'll pause here before we jump into iOS and say, yes, I agree with you, Thomas. It is true. The very fact that of all the things that have been released, we've got an Apple Watch Ultra, but we don't have a Mac Pro. That says everything you need to say about Apple's direction. It is very much fitness, lifestyle, health, and moving a little away from creativity. I mean, you could argue, you could say, look, they put the Mac Studio out. They had a little bit of something there for pro users. And the very fact that the M2 exists and the M1 Ultra and the M1 Max, look, that they're still creating, and the M2 in the iPad, they're still creating devices for creators. But the thing that I always come back to is that we are not the majority. We are the 10% or even the 5% that use these devices in a certain way. The vast majority of people using iPads, iPhones, and even Macs are consumption devices with maybe some light creativity. Maybe they need to do some web browsing, some social media, some writing, some very light audio or video. Those of us that are using it for the hardcore stuff are the minority. And I guess the argument is that Apple did a better job supporting creative pros in the past because they saw them as a very vital group, whereas now creation's gone more mainstream. And if anything, the quality is less important now. When people are creating 9:16 portrait mode, 30-second TikTok videos at a much higher rate than anyone creating 10-minute full tutorials with B-roll and beautiful mirrorless and DSLR images. I'm not saying that image quality and audio quality is no longer important, but I think that content has always been king, but now it's even more so king. And I think people that are spending a lot of time creating things and trying to make things, this perfect precision, yeah, a lot of that's being wasted because people are literally just watching it while they're scrolling through on the train on their tiny screen device, and it's probably not required. That's just my view on this. Do I have a message? I'll just see if there's anything I need. No, it's just Wordle. It's just my wife telling me that she's better at Wordle than I am. Love how Apple changes changes their charges. Well, the thing is, Apple have definitely been a bit consistent, stubbornly consistent with things like Lightning on the iPhone. I'm baffled that the iPhone 14 still has Lightning. I really thought we'd be at USB-C by now, and they're going to be pushed that way because of the European Union mostly, but they'll move to USB-C. But if you actually look at the years of Apple, going from the 30-pin to the Lightning to USB-C has been a 15, 20-year endeavor. And the Macs are a bit harder because with the Macs they went from the old version of MagSafe to just Thunderbolt, back to MagSafe. It's a different version, then to a third version of Mac. So the connections for powering up a Mac have been a ridiculousness. Alrighty, yeah. Just had a vision of Pete editing his videos while working, whether he runs sploosh. Oh yeah, yesterday I was in the pool because it was 41 degrees here, 41 Celsius, which is about 110, and it was really hot. And I was in the pool and I had my phone there and I was doing some stuff and replying to some comments probably, and I was like, yeah, this phone could go for a swim any moment now. Luckily, it didn't. By the way, there's a link if you want to go check out all of these updates. If you want to go check out all the Mac changes, the ones that we just looked at there, there's a link down in the description that will take you there. But let's look at iOS, shall we? So let's look. Let's look at the comical lack of changes in GarageBand iOS over the last year. So, new in 2.3.14, GarageBand now requires permission from the user to access the microphone prior to recording audio with the microphone or other source. That is it. That is the release notes. So 2.3.14 didn't do much. And look, I think there were some stability and stuff behind the scenes. If you go into the developer notes, there's a few other bits in there. But in terms of a user, yeah, it now asks you when you go in there, do you want to record from the microphone? Which is, I guess, a safety thing in case someone ran GarageBand in the background and they didn't want to. Let's go back though. 2.3.13, GarageBand now has improved performance when browsing sounds for touch instruments while recording on iPad. Have I even played with this? By browsing for sounds? Yeah, I don't know. I guess by improvements, it means it crashes less when you're just in there trying to select instruments. I haven't noticed that, but if anyone has, let me know. Maybe it has been more stable. Resolves an issue where GarageBand might quit unexpectedly installing sound packs. Well, that's a good thing. You don't want your GarageBand to quit while you're installing a sound pack. Again, never had that, but if you did, it no longer is. Performers, audio unit controls are no longer interrupted because GarageBand Audio Engine now automatically restarts when an external device is connected. Yay! Yes, if you've seen a lot of my videos, and I know Jade Starr's had challenges with this and others have had challenges, yeah, the whole audio engine in GarageBand, you would have known this. If you've had this error, you'll know it. GarageBand Audio Engine has stopped! Exclamation mark. The world's coming to an end. Basically, every time you unplugged or replugged anything, you would have that issue. So for me, that was a pain in the butt for the reason that I have my iPad sitting here and it's on my desk here and it's plugged in. And the reason that you can hear the audio when I play back, when I come in here and play a song, is that I've actually got that connected up via my Steinberg UR22C. So I can actually have that connected up there. If I unplug this, which I'll do now, and it goes away, what would happen before is it would go, audio engine has quit, everything has stopped. But now I can unplug and plug back in, and it just goes back to its original state, which you would argue is something that it should have done before. So you don't have to go in and adjust audio settings and restart GarageBand and quit and reopen the app. It's just going to work. But really? Anyway, should it ever been that way? No. Is it good that it's fixed? Yes, I guess. VoiceOver now announces song sections that are swiped through. That's got to be good. Let us know, Omni Collective, if that is something that works well. Sound library. Dragging the car horn loop in the Toybox sound pack from the loop browser to a track now places the correct sound in the track. Now, I'd never put the car horn track in a loop, but that's pretty funny. What was it? Was it like a fart sound instead of the car horn? That would be funny. The horse effect in the Erhu instrument no longer remains active after releasing the control. So if you've never played with the horse effect in the Erhu, it's actually kind of fun. Is it called the horse effect? I thought it was actually had like some fancy name, but they've obviously just said no. It's the horse effect. That's what we're calling it. Let's jump over. I'll show you what this is. So this is this thing down here, and if you play and you hit the horse. So what it did before is that would get stuck on, and then you'd try to play it. You'd try to go back to. You go back to try to play it, and it just would leave that horse stuck on, so it would just keep going, which was less than ideal. But that was fixed. Resolves the issue where some Apple loops are previewed properly in the loop browser, but then did not sound when dragged to the track area. Yeah, so basically Apple loops were a hot mess for a while there. Sometimes you drag them in, they'd be the wrong loop. Sometimes they wouldn't work at all. It was not fun. Double tapping the chord strip in iPhone no longer hides the keyboard. Yeah, that was a fun bug. I won't show you that one, but yeah. Inputs from audio devices that support Audio Drive Kit are now selectable in GarageBand. I don't have any of those devices, but it's good. The level meter now displays as expected in the input menu when using a multi-channel audio interface. That was a bit of a hassle for some people with some interfaces, because when you, like me, were using an audio interface, you need to make sure that the inputs are correct and that they look right. So that's this bit here, where you come in here and you've got your channel there. This one here needs to be there, and you can't adjust it, but that's by design. But yeah, making sure that you can actually see that and select the right channel for your multi-channel interfaces. So an important change, something that was put in there. New features and enhancements, bit 2.3.12. New pattern editor added to this button has been added to the step sequencer. So that's probably, that is literally, because I think, yeah, all the rest, there's all the accessibility stuff, which is great. So 2.3.12 was the one that added a heap of accessibility. Look at all those. Like, I won't go through them all, but there's a heap of them there. Whereas all the other stuff was just updates and stability improvements. But so I guess a new pattern button. I didn't even notice this. A new pattern button added to the step sequencer. Where is that? Let's see if we can find it retrospectively, because I've never played with this. Let's go back out here. If we go into the step sequencer, which is in the beat sequencer. So what did they say? A new pattern button. So this one here, new pattern button. Oh, yay! That's actually a really good change. Okay. Because it used to be that you would have to, there was a blank one, but you'd have to go to the very end. You'd have to scroll through all of these templates, and right at the very end, I wonder if it's still there. No, they've removed it. So that's cool. Okay. I'll give them credit on that one, because before, if you already had something selected here, like that, and you're like, oh man, I just want to blank all that out, you'd have to go to the very end to actually blank it. So that's a legitimate change. Just shows how often I use the step sequencer. But yeah, it's there. So that is it. The only other thing that we had in the year, and Patrick and I talked about this on the show that we did recently around the 2022s and what we saw in GarageBand, was some new sounds. It was this guy Zed and his pack there, and the Beat Tape pack, which is actually a pretty decent pack. So yeah, extra hip hop stuff, a few 808s thrown in there just for good measure. 2021 was the year where we got all the artist and producer packs, which were all pretty cool. But yeah, it's been a little bit light on in terms of new stuff. And again, go back to what I said about Mac. Same kind of thing here with iOS. It's really down to the fact that they've got everything in the iOS version of GarageBand that they intend to add, in my view. Will I be proven wrong and a banjo comes out and a ukulele comes out and they improve the guitar sounds in the future? Maybe. You never quite know. It's always surprising what happens with Apple and their decisions, but yeah, it's different. 16.2, yeah, so we've got talks about iOS. I guess that's been the big change as well, is that iOS and iPadOS 16 came out. iPadOS 16 was a hot mess. When the new iPads came out, it just did not work. There were so many things that failed, so many things that didn't work with that one. 16.1 was better. 16.2 is fine. Most of what I've noticed was a problem in 16 and 16.1, like audio interfaces not working, like some software and apps not working, has been fixed in 16.2. So what I've been saying to folks as I have a cough, what I've been saying to folks is if you're on 15.7 and you've got some apps that you're relying on, you're in the middle of a big project, don't change, especially if you want to, I don't know, master using Final Touch. Yeah, you cannot do that anymore. Final Touch is now officially boned. It is gone. It is history. It is finished. So you cannot use Final Touch, my favorite mastering app, anymore. I've got Grand Finale 2 that I'm playing with now, so that seems to be doing a good job. But I did like Final Touch. So I'm very sad that Positive Grizz decided to discontinue that app. Look, the writing was on the wall. They hadn't updated in about 5 years, but it was my favorite mastering app on iOS. So, stay on iPad OS 15.7 as long as you can. There's really nothing new in iOS 16. No, I wouldn't race out there. Really, the big changes are things like the Stage Manager, which if you use it and you like it, great. I don't yet, but I haven't played with it enough. And external display support, but that's only supported if you have an M1 or M2 iPad. You cannot use that with the older iPads. Hellboy Hendricks, hello to you. Rob Crusoe said, I tried to open GB while watching this and it just said, unable to install GB right now. Huh? On the Mac or the iOS? That's a weird one. Very strange. Close and reopen. Log out, log back in. Turn it off and on. They're all the options that you have. That's what I say. All right. So that is the feature. That is a year in review. We've looked at the hardware. If you're just joining us, earlier in the show, we looked at all the new Macs, all the new iPads and iPhones that were released in 2022. We've looked at the GarageBand updates for 2022, which have been sparse. But you know what? Bug fixes and stability improvements, they're fine. You'd love them to not exist in the first place, but if they do and they get fixed, that's a good thing. It's fine. On the iPad, so your iPad's not loading up. Yeah, so that is weird. Maybe might be iOS. Are you on the latest version of iOS or iPad OS? Because that can actually have a problem as well. If you're on an older version, in trying to install the new version, it'll say no, cannot be installed. So I've got that problem. If you're using an older device that didn't update to iOS 13, you basically had to go into the App Store and you had to go to your previous purchases and go back and find it and download the older version. If you try to download it from the App Store, it just wouldn't work, which is a pain in the butt. All right, I'm gonna finish off here with a couple of really quick things. Quick rant. So, rant of the week this week. I heard this quote, and at first I thought, is this another one of those quotes like the doing the same thing and expecting a different result Einstein quote? But apparently Einstein, that smart dude, the E=mc² bloke, he said something that kind of resonated with me, and it's something that I want to focus in on for 2023. He said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And for obvious reasons, I think that's pretty relevant because this channel and everything I do here is all about explaining things in a simple way that's going to be accessible for everybody. And do I get in trouble for that sometimes because people get their knickers in a twist because I'm not going into every detail of everything? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't really make any apologies for that. And I think the people that I resonate with are also people who can explain things in a simple yet entertaining way. And that's what I want to be. In 2023, I want to be simple and entertaining so that we can actually have some fun. We can learn some things, but I want to make sure that I'm not being exclusionary because here's the problem. And I think the reason that quote resonated with me is that a lot of folks, when they know a lot about a topic, instead of explaining that topic to people in simple terms that the person they're talking to can understand, they may either consciously or subconsciously use big and complicated words and concepts that they understand that they know the other person doesn't to make themselves feel better. And to me, that is the biggest problem. The biggest challenge I've had with a lot of other channels, and some people that have criticized me for being too simple because they've got like a 40-minute video that goes into every nook and cranny and detail of a particular thing. And I do a 5-minute overview video showing folks what buttons to push to get to it. And yes, I am specifically talking about when I did a video on Logic's Dolby Atmos new feature. Because I just wanted to show people, here's the button you press, here's how you get into it, now play around with it. And other people told me that, no, you've got to show every detail and don't listen to this guy, he's not giving the right information. But yeah, again, there's different levels for this sort of thing. And I think unless you can explain things in a simple way to people, to keep it simple, then yeah, it's no point. All right, that's all I got. That's all I got to say about that. The one final thing I wanted to put out there is if there's a tip of the week, and I'm going to call this the tip of the year, and that is please back up. Please spend some time. Hopefully, you've got a little downtime in the next 3 or 4 days before the end of the year. Please start 2023, even if you're not organized and you don't have all your projects in the right folders and you don't have all your templates set up. Please just make sure that you have a backup copy of everything that's important to you. That includes your devices. Make sure they're backed up to iCloud. Make sure that you have your GarageBand projects backed up. Make sure any apps that are important are backed up. All of your data files are backed up. And just stick them somewhere. If all you can do, if all you have time to do is grab all your files, put them into one big zip file and stick it on Google Drive or Dropbox for a backup, then do that. Spend 5 minutes. But if you've got half an hour or an hour, go through your files, work out what you need to make sure you have, and then back them up. Because I will inevitably, in January, February, March, April, every month next year, I'll get multiple messages and emails about people who are really sad because they've lost their project. And they're like, Johns, I don't know what happened, but I just installed an update and I lost all of my GarageBand projects. And I will say, did you have them backed up? And they will say no. So don't be them. Please go and back up all your stuff. Because it's just the right thing to do. You don't want to be that person that's in my inbox crying because you lost all your GarageBand projects. And there is a way to avoid it. Prevention is definitely better than cure in this particular case. So please go back that stuff up. Yeah, baby got backups. That's what it should have been. I'm gonna do a new version of the Sir Mix-a-Lot song. Baby got backups. Maybe not. Yep, back it up. Beep, beep, beep. Has anyone noticed that the new cars don't go beep, 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 or the trucks, they don't go beep, beep, beep. They go ksh, ksh, ksh. I don't like it. I miss beep, beep, beep. G'day, Joe Mocha says, I learned how to record music from Pete's videos. Well done. Well, thank you, my friend. And hopefully they were simple enough for you to do. So saves a lot. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of Baby Got, LA, no, I can't think of any fun words, but there's got to be a way to do it. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be as funny as it seems in concept. Have you ever found that? If you have a really funny concept, but then you don't follow through with it because it's too hard to implement. Yeah. All right, that is going to do it for this particular show. What I'm going to say is what you can do is jump on over to the GarageBand iOS FAQ, which is at studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. That has all of the GarageBand gear that you need to know about. You can check out the $10 GarageBand course, all of the different playlists that we have there, and join the GarageBand communities because they are super duper cool, dudes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for the last year. We will be back in 2023 with GarageBand Weekly. It is one of my favourite shows. I know it's changed a lot in time. We used to be very intense and cover a lot of detail, and now it's more just an opportunity to get together, have a chat, answer some questions, and to just revel in the goodness that is GarageBand. So thank you, everyone, for all of your support in the last year, and do go and check out all the resources down in the description. This is officially sort of the last show for 2022. We have the happy hour, our New Year's celebration happy hour. That'll be on New Year's Eve for many of you. It'll actually be New Year's Day for me, but it'll be New Year's Eve for many of you. So excuse me if I'm a bit seedy on that day. Could be interesting. See how we go. Until then, please be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Keep creating. And I'll see you next time here on Studio Live Today. Happy New Year, folks. See you.